Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So in my last video I made these tissue prints with ink pads, and I implied at the end that you could add to that and do polka dots with your fingers. So I want to show you that I'm just doing a little prelude at the beginning of this collage abstract today to show you what I meant by that. You just it doesn't get any easier than this. You don't need stencils or anything, just use your fingers. So it just depends. That looks more like a thumbprint. It depends on how you put your finger down when you tip it. And I did 3 different sizes, first with my fingertip. The second set there was with a bigger paintbrush, and look at the happy surprise. Look at the little tentacles I found on there. And I'm going to show you exactly how that happens. So let's get that practice sheet out, and I'm going to show you how I did it. I firmly pressed the paintbrush so that it would go right down into the ink pad. And in pushing that down, because that tissue paper is so soft and delicate, it pushes a little bit into the grooves, and it made those little tentacles. I will show you in a minute a close-up of how that happens, but isn't that a happy surprise? I love it when something like that happens. And I think that I've never seen anything quite like these little dots with their little tentacles. And I think, who knows where I'm going to go with it. And then I thought, let's just have fun and make a random line. Just because I've got the paper here, I've got the ink pad out, so I'm just trying to use up this tissue paper. Then I'll show you this third size is using, and now see when I pushed it down, how it pushes the tissue paper in, and it makes those little tentacles, the little edges of the paper touch the ink pad. So that's how that happened. And I'm just, couldn't have planned that, but it happened. So I'm making a couple of rows just to make something for my stash. Not sure I'm going to use these today or not, but because I'm out here, with the equipment, let's just make the most of it. So I did a little bit more, and then I thought, let's make it even more random and more busy. And that's so much fun. I thought I'm going to do the same thing with green. But before I do that, I thought, let's see if we could do, instead of, using a stencil on an ink pad, let's try that effect for a grassy effect. And then, of course, as I wrote down, using a fork would have been easier as long as you don't scratch the paper. But you get the idea. There's so many things. Look at all the little tentacles. Those look like little mini spruce trees. So I'm just making a whole random pattern of those dots, and who knows? Let's see where we go with it. But for sure, it's going in my stash. So now let's get back to what I started to do today, is making a collage, an abstract collage with the printed papers that I did last month. I showed you a video on how to do those. First video was these blues. The second video was the oranges and reds. And now I just still have some in my stash. So I'm just looking at them and thinking, oh, this one is my favorite. I love, love, love the shape of it, how intricate it is. In fact, I think that that could stand on its own. You could put paint over it, put a glaze over it, do dribbles over it, squiggle. There's so many things you could do with that just as it is. But I don't want to do a lot of painting today. I want to show you that I can also do a collage with almost almost exclusively collage papers. I've got these heavier copy papers, and I've got those out. I'm just ripping different shapes. I don't have any plan. I'll say it again. I say it every time. When I start one of these videos, I never, ever know where I'm going to end up. And it's usually a happy surprise. So I'm just playing around with some shapes of the papers. Right now, I'm predominantly using these 2 colors. I know I'll do a third as an accent or a pop color, but right now I'm just playing around with showing you what you can do with shapes and silhouettes. And I do love asymmetrical layouts on a page. I've got another one there that had a lot of white. I'm just trying to decide that, I want you to be patient because I'm showing you so many options today, and I'm not going with them all. I'm just showing you how to think about it when you've got these scraps. Just play around, rotate them. Again, this isn't what I'm going to end up doing, but I'm playing with it. I've got, at this point, at the beginning of my video, I always have a very open mind. I never know where they're going to take me. And then I had little scraps there. So I'm just trying to show you all the different options. I like all of them, to tell you the truth, but if I was to stop now and paste that down, my video would be over in 5 minutes. But I thought, I'm going to try to hold it together as a little cluster here and just cut away a little bit of the outer perimeter and think about it. Again, I have no plan. I'm keeping it as an option. And I like that, but I don't know if there's any focus, any story yet. So I'm just bringing out these ones I did last week, which was the printing tissue papers without a gel plate. And I did all these ones I'm using right now. And I'm just playing around with options. There's probably 6 or 7 different options where you can take these today. And we're going to end up with something completely different. But I love showing you how to think about it. So I like that, but there's no story. And it's a little bit too busy. So I'm going to remove those. And but I do want this rust colored one in the background, but I don't want to waste the middle of it being covered up by that big piece of blue paper. So I'm tearing it apart in sections so that I can make it like a frame around the back side without wasting anything in the very middle. So I'm just playing around with that as an accent color to bounce the blue against. And I'm going to glue those down with matte medium, which will make any parts of that tissue paper that are transparent there, it'll make them completely clear once it's glued down. And as you can see there, that's my technique where I get a clean brush, clean water, and I soak the brush in water and paint along the perimeter, and then it just tears it very softly and organically instead of straight edges on that tissue paper. I can't do that with the printed paper pieces, but because I've got these printed tissues, I can definitely do that technique. So I'm just going to put, I don't have to put too thick of a coat of matte medium right now because this is just thin tissue paper and it will glue down quite well. But now with this heavier paper, that was a very good quality copy paper. It's almost 2-ply. So when I glue that down, you'll notice I'll have to put a lot more matte medium to hold that in place. Also, you see that I'm using a flat brush to spread that out. When I put the big blue piece here, I'm going to have to use an old ID card to spread that around quite firmly so that it really, really adheres to the paper, to the page. I'm just cutting away little bits that I think I'd like the perimeter to look a little different. I love this wonky perimeter. I think it's really fun. Again, right now I am thinking, and look how thick I put that down. So right now my goal is I'm doing a collage in an abstract manner. I called this a landscape, and it did end up being a landscape, but at this point in my day, I didn't know where it was going. So again, I pressed really firmly with an old ID card. That makes sure it sticks down flat without any bubbles. And then I put these 2 pieces over top, and I really quite like how that looks. But I don't know, and if this was just an art journal where I'm playing, I could leave it at that and say that's great. But right now, if I leave it like this, I really don't know what it's saying. I always tell you that I'm looking for the story. Oh, I like the pattern of that printed pattern there, like the lacy pattern of it. So I'm really happy how that breaks up the pattern of the blue page. But again, I'm going to put these down, but I don't know where I'm headed yet. So these are all options where you could stop at any time. I do this and show you all the different options because I'm trying to teach you a few ways of how to think about balance and everything like that. So you're going to look and think, why am I doing all this when I'm going to go and change it later? The point is, that's why I'm here. I'm here to show you how I think, what my process is, and you may not like all of it. There's a lot of amazing collage abstract artists out there and paint artists out there. And I don't always love every layer that they do. Sometimes they'll do something wonderful and I think I love it like it is, and then they go and change it. That's just how it works. It's very subjective. Right now I'm doing a bunch of, it's almost like pattern stripes. I don't intend on keeping this. I'm just playing around right now with just playing, just living in the moment and playing with options, how things go. But again, there's no story. And then I thought, if I cut that out, the top half of this reminds me of mountains. So I've decided at this point I'm going to do I'm calling it an Alpine Landscape, and I'm going to go with it. Not sure if I'm going to use this piece I've got right now. I'm just showing you how I put it down and think about it and rotate it, think about it, rotate it some more. You know, it's all just, you know, again, I don't like that bottom half. I'm not going to keep it, just so you know. Now I want to show you how drastically this altered by simply rotating 90 degrees my page. Look at that completely different effect. And I'm doing that to show you that that's something you should do all the time when you're doing your abstracts, because it's a fresh pair of eyes and you see things so differently. Like right now, I don't see an alpine landscape, but I do when I twist it around. Especially there, that looks like a real mountain peak in the background. But I might rotate it again. So I'm just trying to show you by having an open mind, rotating, looking at it with new eyes. That's the orientation I'm going to stay with, by the way. Now you notice when I peel that back, there was a 2-ply paper. So I peeled it back, and what I circled there was I like the top half, but I didn't like the bottom half. So I'm trying to get rid of all that blue, and I don't know if I'm going to use those that tissue paper there. I don't know if I'm going to use it or not, but if I did, I would want more of this orange in the background, just so that the blue would show up. Bottom line, I'm just trying to decide what to do. I love the mountain effect in the background, but I don't like the foreground, so I'm trying to make it a little more calm, less busy, less color block, and see where we go. And then I thought, now I've got a lighter background. This would show up if I put it down. It really would, but it's not telling me a story. I don't know what it's trying to say. It might say a story to you, but it isn't to me. But before I make up any mind, I'm doing my wet brush technique again to tear away parts of the scratchy areas that I like, and I'll see where it goes. And I did the edges as well. I didn't want straight cut lines, even if it is just light tissue. I'm just trying to get rid of the straight cut edge and that smudge. So now you can see it really does show up, but it doesn't make sense with an with an alpine landscape now. I mean, I love the look, but it's still too busy. It doesn't know what it is. Now I'm going to try this thicker one that looks like a thicker yarn and see. And that's fun, but again, it's too busy. I don't know what the painting's trying to be. But I love the movement of it, but it's not telling me it's a landscape. So what I want to do is grab this paper because it's busy, but it's subtle and more calm. What I like is the subtle textures and pattern in it, but in a more subtle way. And so I'm going to take the whole bottom half and cover it with paint. Just get rid of all that I did there. It was I couldn't pull it back at that point. It was starting to dry. And I do want to use that calmer blue pattern. And I want to use my new tissue prints that I made that look like cord. So just keep in mind, when I do this, I'm just experimenting. This is all new to me. I'm just showing you that I'm brave enough to do it in front of you because I'm trying to encourage you to be brave to just take risks. So what I'm doing is covering up that area because I want it to be sky. I definitely want this to be an alpine landscape, and so I need a clear sky in the background. That's the magic of a heavy white paint. I couldn't do that with my fluid white because it's too runny and semi-transparent and it wouldn't cover it. Plus the white paint is heavy enough that it sort of masks the edges of that paper when I tore it and put it down. It takes away a little bit of the effect of the ridges. So I'm just softly with a flat brush painting that down. There's a smudgy area right there that I'm not sure about yet, but I'm going to leave it for now right there. I don't want to make a decision just yet. By the way, that white was dry. I've got these blue, but they don't make sense. I did that today just to show you what you could do with the tissue with your fingers, but I'm really, really liking the texture of this. I know I don't want blue in the foreground, but I'm going for the pattern because I'm going to glaze over top of that. So what I'm looking for is just a subtle but busy, gentle busy foreground, and this paper's doing it for me. See, I can put an orange glaze over that and turn that blue into more of a green. So I'm not even worrying about that right now. What I'm worrying about is the pattern. And watch when I glue this down and place it down, how it lines up in the top left. I'll show you where I mean in a minute with an arrow. So I like the flow of this. I'm going to get rid of that. I'll deal with the bottom. I need to, right there, that part there, when I put that paper down with the other one and behind it, it kind of looked like a river flowing. Not that it is a river, but I just like that it seemed to work out and it joined the two images together and created movement down the page. I'm using my fingers so that I can just smudge it a bit. I don't want a strong, sharp outline. I want a fuzzy edge. And I do like that new little peak I made. And since I've got my finger already full of white paint, I may as well use it to smudge down here. And again, I'm using my finger because I like how I can lightly do it right there and then push harder when I want to smudge it towards the interior of my image. I do use my fingers a lot. So I'm just trying to make it a little more white and a little cleaner. And then pushing it so it makes it smudgy and foggy like at the bottom. I'm already madly in love with this image as it is. Love the silhouette. It's definitely telling me it's an Alpine landscape. I know it's a little weird to have that sharp bit of orange on the top left there, that pattern, but you'll see what I do with that. Remember, it's a landscape, but what's the point of using collage papers to make a landscape if you can't keep it as an abstract? So I want to maintain the fact that it's a wonky, funky abstract, even though I'm calling it an alpine landscape. So I do like that pattern. And I want to get rid of that white. So I thought I have two options here. I could use this because it's a very subtle, dusty kind of print on that tissue. But I do worry that it's going to be too dark. And I don't want to have a lot of dark in the middle there. I don't want it to cover up that lovely pattern paper that I glued down. So I know I'm probably not going to like this, but I'm showing you how to think about it as an option. Because I do these prints on tissue, it's so easy to go and place it over top and then change your mind. But if you were to stamp and do that over top of your painting, you've done it already. So the goal I'm going for is a subtle bit of orange, but I just don't want to get too dark. I want to keep it very delicate because I really want the pattern of that blue paper that I've glued down there with a lot of white in it. I want to maintain some of that pattern. So again, I'm just showing you that this is how I think, but I decided I don't want it as too dark. I want to go more subtle. So this is what I did last week as well in a video. And the ink pad was called Sand, something Sand, and it ended up being very transparent. And I love that because I'm calling this tissue glazing because normally I do thin watered down glazes over top my work. But again, this way I've got it done on tissue. And if I don't like it, I don't have to glue it down. So what I want to do, because it's so transparent, is I just want to subtly start building up layers of this light glaze. Again, my story to me is loud and clear, and it's never too late to find your story. I mean, all that other stuff didn't work, but it got me to here. And keep that in mind. Mistakes are always usually happy accidents for me, and they lead me somewhere. And I usually learn and grow from them. So I'm encouraging you to take risks like this. Today, this was completely a risk because I think it's the only third or fourth abstract landscape I've ever even done. So bear with me. I'm just learning here. I'm doing it with you. But I'm loving these delicate layers of glaze on the tissue because it's revealing that fun pattern below. but I'm trying to recreate a little bit of interest in a subtle way. And again, they're transparent, so each time I overlap that paper a little bit more, it shows a little darker where the overlap is. And the other thing I'm trying to do here is tie in that bright terracotta orange in with the blue so that the page makes sense. It's like trying to marry the two of them together with something in the middle ground that makes them all work together and balance. So that area there is what I'm working on, and I'm liking it. That's got a lot of green on it from the tissue paper, but I like that too because green is in nature. I'm really, really enjoying this subtle random pattern. So I'm going to glue them down with matte medium. I don't have to go too thick because it's tissue. Paste that down with the brush, not the credit card. And I'm just going to keep doing more and more layers. Again, I'm starting to just build interest and build shading. And I like that. Notice how that white has become a little bit of orange and a little bit of green, almost an olivey glaze color. And I'm liking that because, again, it's tying it all together. Soon as I put that glaze of sandy orange over top of that blue, it becomes more green. And that makes sense now in the foreground of a nature scene. That might be an alpine, a mountain in the background with snow on it, but the foreground, and then the next layer would be fall trees, but in this foreground, it's going to be more typical nature colors. So now I've got this strip here, which I absolutely love. And I immediately knew that that's going to go in the sky. Look at that. Really, really, really fun. Sometimes I do that effect with a pencil crayon, but I've got it already on a tissue paper. If I did it with a pencil crayon and I didn't like it, it'd be a done deal. But this way I can look and see the effect. Look at that. Now there is a smudge right there from my finger, but I don't care. So this looks like I've got atmosphere in the painting. It looks like a windy day, and I'm crazy in love with that. Really happy. Again, I don't want this to start looking too landscapey. I'm not trying to make it like a perfect mountain scene. I'm still trying to have it playful and funky. Just using my fingertip there softly to spread it out so the tissue doesn't wrinkle. But be careful when you do that so you don't push the tissue and remove it. It's very delicate. So you can see now that middle ground is quite olivey now. It's taken on a green tone. So I'm going to take some of these, which I did last week, and I'm just going to play around with options because I like the movement of it and I want to put a little bit more green in the foreground. So this is one option, and I like it, and it definitely does the job. It puts green in the foreground, and you could, but it doesn't go with the story. I hope you agree. It doesn't tell me that that's plants and nature in the foreground. It just looks like, a squiggle, which is fine. I prefer these. I'm going to use these. They just look like little plants. I just can't believe I accidentally figured that out, and look at how fun that is. Those I'm going to keep, but the yarn squiggle one I'm going to replace. Look at that. That's a great foreground. Very happy with that. It smudged a little on the bottom left, and that's only because I did that literally minutes before I started this project today, and it wasn't 100% dry. If I would have let that dry several hours or overnight, I wouldn't have had it smear. But while it was still wet, I just dabbed it with some tissue and it lifted. So there we go. I like what's happening here, but they don't work together yet. The foreground isn't working with the middle. I'm going to get some transparent green gold. I'm going to wet my brush several times and put water into that lid where the paint is, so I make it very runny. Now this is going to go on very neon because it's mixed with water, but I'm using a fan brush and I'm just going delicately around. Don't worry, I know that's too neon. I'm going to tone that back. But right now I'm just delicately moving it around. I want to add a little bit more because I plan on spraying with water and I want to watch the paint flow. Because I've got a lot of matte medium over the surface now, that allows this paint to flow freely over top, and I can rotate the paper and watch the fun of the paint flow. If I would have done that on just paper, it would have soaked into the paper and it wouldn't flow like I'm about to get it to do. So I'm just having fun. This is something I do all the time. A couple people have said, my goodness, you use a lot of matte medium and it makes the fluid paint on the top take forever to dry. But if you don't do this, you don't get paint flow. So that is why I do it. I'm encouraging it with a little bit more. It's still too neon. I'll fix that. Right now I'm just doing paint flow. I'm going to spread more water. Now that gets rid of a lot of the paint flow I put on there, but that's okay. I was just showing you a technique. I'm just weighing that down with a couple of things because the paper is a little bit warped now. And then I thought, no, let's push that, and I'm using it now with my finger to act as a glaze over top of the mid area. So between that color and the other tissue glaze that I had down, the two of them together become a very transparent olive color. And it makes a little more sense as it gets closer to that orange. And I'm going to dab some of this back with tissue because it's way too neon-y. So even though I'm dabbing a lot of that paint flow back, that's okay. This is my process. I put paint down and then I remove. And that's what gives you interesting textures and patterns in the end. If you don't do that, it's really, I know it seems like a waste, but it's really just part of the process. But I hope you can see that the front is starting to make sense with the middle and the background a little more than it did. Now I've got this bit here and I'm thinking, gee, I could put that there, but it's just too dark. Then I get covering over all that stuff that I like below there. I don't like that. I'm going to use another part of that. This one's fun. And on the very top left, right there where above my finger, I like that right there it sits on top. I want to cover that bit of navy blue right there and let it start there and then move down. My mantra for my painting and my abstracts is color, movement, and energy. I've definitely got color. Now I'm creating a lot of movement, and in all of this, it's creating energy. So I've kind of fulfilled my three things. Again, I'm going to place that to cover most of that blue and then let it go down towards the bottom right. So this is creating almost a Z zigzag kind of pattern that the eye will move around from there up to the orange over to the right. It's like a Z, and that's good. It allows the eye, I don't want the eye to rest in just one spot. I want it to move around. Now I've got too much white there. I don't want it to look like snow. So I'm going to glaze. I've got my Quinacridone Nickel Gold, which is very a good match to that orange tissue print, that paper print that I laid down. And I'm adding waters. It makes it a little brighter, but it will dry darker. What I'm doing is adding a lot of water into the lid, and I'm going to paint it down as a glaze. It's going to go on darker, and because there's so much water, it will dry a little less bright. But I don't want to cover all of the pattern of that paper print because I do like that pattern, but I'm just trying to move that orange color around the page a bit more. And notice how when it touches the green, it becomes a nice, beautiful color that you couldn't, I couldn't have thought to make that color. It's just that glaze going on top of the prior green glaze makes this wonderful new fresh color that marries the two together, and it makes it all work. But I'm going very lightly, adding more water to spread it out so that it's not too dark. I just want a little more of that terracotta orange to the far right so that the orange moves around. I'm loving that circled area, those colors. That's a brand new color. Now, full strength, I'm using that terracotta, that Nickel Gold, to match, to balance it. It's a hit of that darker color in the right, but in a small space. So it allows really good flow and movement. I'm happy with that. This is almost done. The only thing that's bothering me is how bright it is in the bottom. So I have to deal with that. What I'm going to do now, this is a trick I do often. The bottom is dry, that green is dry, so I'm putting this heavier white over top, and then I'll get a toothpick and scrape into it, and that will reveal in little scrapes, scrapey lines, it will reveal that green. And that way I give a pattern, and notice the thin toothpick lines match those tentacles on that green tissue print that I put down. So they kind of work together. Kind of works with those scratchy little lines of green, and now I'm scraping a little more in there. And I'm just sort of, this is the final touch, is just to get a little bit of movement and make the bottom make sense. See those thin scratchy lines? They match those green tentacles from those dots I made. And then I'm just doing a different pattern there, just to reveal a little bit of the green. And now I just want to, while that's drying, I just want to cover up a little more and clean this up with a little white in that spot there, just to clean it up. And just a little over here. But I don't want to cover those scratchy green things right there. I love what it's doing there. And even though I didn't scratch those, that's just how it ended up being. And now here you go. I've done so many different procedures in here. I'm showing you I love the random silhouette. I love the flow of the sky. I love the pattern down on the bottom. And I'm really, really happy with the effect. I like how it moves from front to back. I hope you like it. I sure do. I might matte and frame this one because I like it so much. I really do. It's a little darker now that my work light isn't on it. Thank you so much for watching again. And I want you to have a great day. And I'll definitely see you next time because we have so many more things to do. Have a great day.